Oh, you painted it.
I painted it, yeah. That's
my
Mallard.
Oh, Ben.
Yeah.
Oh, so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Gosh.
Scene straight out of Fargo, by the way.
Oh.
Anywho, I suppose that's a perfect time to... Oh, wait, what's that? That's the music playing us in.
Perfect. Good timing.
Yeah, that's good. Although I always say that, and I feel like by now it's fading out. Whereas in my mind, this theater of the mind thing, I feel like it's fading in. But no, it's actually fading out by now. So anyway, I suppose that means it's time to start this new episode of the Video Reformation Podcast. Welcome to everyone. I'm Ben.
I'm Justin.
We are the co-founders of Storyboard Media, your guides on the journey to practicing effective video for business. We're like the Roald Amundsen for your expedition to the South Pole. Because that's a thing.
Yeah.
He did that.
Well, he was the first one to head down there.
First one.
Yeah. I'm more of a, what's his name?
Shackleton
fan.
See, yeah. I think we're going to run out of famous guides at some point, so I didn't want to put Amundsen and Shackleton in the same teaser there.
Yeah.
Because we're going to probably have to, I feel like I'm still kind of in the Midwestern voice.
I'm trying hard not to. This might be the one.
Okay, yes, this is our Midwestern accent episode. So yeah, anyway, for those of you watching on Instagram Live or watching the video version of this podcast, welcome to our new studio.
Hey.
And I suppose anyone listening, welcome to our new studio also.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear a difference.
There's a little buzz, and that's from our new sign back there.
I've lost that register of my hearing. I can't hear it buzzing.
A little bit.
Got a little buzz?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we moved into a new office, first floor of the same building, but we did it so that we could get the studio. So here we are recording our first thing ever in the studio.
Available for rent.
So yes, also available for rent, downtown Durham. Just name your price. All right, so today we're going to be talking about video creation at scale. Should be kind of an interesting free-form discussion. Before we dive in, though, I would like to welcome our brand new sponsor. Our sponsor today is the Old 98s. Not a whole lot of context there, but I have it on good authority that their ad is pretty good. So stick around, listen for the ad later in the episode.
The Old 98s.
The Old 98s, yes,
okay.
Our new sponsor.
All right.
The Old 98s. Not to be confused with the Old 97s, which is, I think, like
well, that was my football number.
Thing. Oh, you were the Old 97,
yeah.
huh?
Number 97.
Now you're the Old 97.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. How many knee surgeries later?
I've had two.
Two, okay.
I had three knee surgeries. But.
And last week your theory was that one of them was a fake surgery?
Yeah, like a placebo.
A placebo surgery.
Yeah. You don't have to have an ACL to function. And I just don't think they put one in there.
Okay. All right. Right. Sorry. One more bit of housekeeping. I think we started mentioning this in the last couple episodes, but I would like to mention that we can keep coming up with ideas for the podcast. We can keep coming up with topics for the next several years, probably. It's not that we so much have them planned out so far. We usually think of it like day before. But we would like to, and they are topics we think our audience would benefit from, but we just as soon hear from you. So if our audience would like to share with us through any means necessary what they would like to hear about, what they'd like to hear us talk about, any questions that they've got, anything we can, enlighten them on, we'd love to hear. So comments,
people call me
texts.
all the time with like little questions or whatever, like, hey, we're hiring our first person, what do you think about this?
I thought that was a job offer. We're hiring our first video person. Can we tear you away from Storyboard Media?
But like that's a great topic. And so we have a series based on how to hire or hiring whatever position. So, but anything, throw it at us. We'd love to roll that into some new new content.
Yeah. All right. So that's the housekeeping. Shall we dive into video creation at scale?
Yeah. This is actually, it's maybe obvious that this was coming, like the scaling of video.
Sure.
But it was part of your one of your trends that you brought up and seeing a lot more quantity over quality.
Yeah, I hate to say it's quantity over quality, but the volume of content needs to be considered over the quality of the content. So I guess it is quantity over. It's not a lack of quality.
Sure, it's just that you're ramping up the quantity, and quality may be
Right.
suffering a little bit or a lot of it, but or maintaining the quality.
Yeah.
Which is tough to do.
Yeah, and so this is something that we talked about on our trends episode. It's something that even with one of our clients we're working on right now. I mean, we just charted out visually for one of our clients. I think it ended up being like 268 total pieces of video content.
Mm-hmm. But not even including promo pieces or anything.
Yes.
Those were all
just
like
268 separate videos.
Yeah.
And because one of the pieces of the manifesto is to be specific, a lot of this is about being specific, but there's a lot of scale in this. So, we get our first 39 videos of that 268 by basically writing 7 videos, one for each kind of core solution. And then we get to make slight scalable tweaks.
Like what?
We may change one line. We may go from, a solution for all of your blank needs to a solution for all of your blank needs in the e-commerce industry.
Right.
That all of a sudden makes that particular e-commerce video much more relevant to that particular viewer. But we're starting with that kind of core piece, that industry agnostic piece of content. But then we just make these subtle changes. And it could even be something like
title.
It could be a title. It could be a color scheme that's added in post or changed in post. But we go from like these 7 videos, and then all of a sudden we're able to add, 5 or 6 industries, and we've got that first big batch. And then it's about making 32 more core videos, and then like 156 versions of that.
And that's just one version of scaling video content, because it comes in a lot of different ways.
Yes.
Which I think we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And a lot of this information, or like kind of the kindling for this conversation, came from Vidyard's recently released video trends of 2020.
Yeah, we kind of had our eyes out for the state of video and business.
Yeah, video
report,
benchmark,
which dropped about a year ago. So we kind of had our eye out for that, and then thought this was that at first. We've talked to Vidyard, and that report is actually coming out in May. So we'll be doing an upcoming episode where we kind of dive into that. But as we got, and then of course we realized that we had just done our trends episodes in December and January. So we didn't want to just go over the Vidyard trends, because we've already shared our trends. There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
But one of the first trends of the 5 trends that they identify is scaling video creation. And so it just seems that it's worth to kind of jump into that. I think before they even get to that as a solution, one of my favorite parts of that whole report is this. It's kind of the end of the introduction, but it's their fundamental question that businesses need to be asking. And I don't want to paraphrase it, but I've got it here. Quote, "In 2020, businesses need to move beyond questions like, why video? Or how do I get going? The big question they'll need to start answering is, how do I make video a natural, integrated, and strategic part of how our business engages our audiences?" And to me, this is separating the laggards, right? Anybody who's still out there asking, well, why should I be doing video? Or like, how do I get started? Like, fine.
Yeah.
But we're so far past them.
Yep.
And our listeners should be so far past that point, because let's be honest, that's where we are now. Video is everywhere. You can't just be like, ooh, how do I get into this now?
Right. Well, you can, but you're in a different playground altogether.
Yeah. Well, and you've been saying for about 2 years now, what happens in 2 years when everybody's doing video? Are you going to be still figuring it out at that point? Or are you going to have 2 years of experience where you've learned what works and what doesn't? And so we're kind of getting to that point. So I just think that's a fundamental question that also was very interestingly mimicked in my inbox this morning, because I got an email from Wistia. And the subject of that email was how to start my first video series or something. And so it was just in preparing for this and looking at that, setting aside the like how to get started. Vidyard is setting aside the how to get started, and Wistia is, and they're completely different audiences. But that is such a great way. And there's this whole video maturity model that Vidyard likes to put out there, and you can kind of assess yourself. But like, people are moving toward those more mature, advanced platforms, looking at advanced analytics, those kinds of things. So that stuff is not like coming, it's here. And then, of course, one way to make video a natural, integrated, and strategic part of how our business engages our audience is video creation at scale. I think a way to do this episode is I've noted a couple sentences, paragraphs in here that I think are just fantastic points and kind of a launching point for us for some discussion. And then we can kind of weave in, any examples, like, our client example that we already got into, to go from, 7 videos to 268 or whatever. But one of the first pieces that jumped out at me in terms of the video creation at scale is, until now, most businesses have only dabbled in video, leveraging agencies and specialized resources to produce videos as required. But as customer and employee expectations change, so too must your approach. In the years ahead, if your teams and individuals aren't able to create video content as efficiently as designing a PDF, building a presentation, or even typing out an email, you risk missing out on the massive opportunity that video presents.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's it. And
okay.
And I have not seen that stark a comparison. I mean, think about how marketing teams used to do PowerPoint presentations.
I'm even thinking, like, back in the 60s, if you needed something typed up, you sent it to the 4th floor where they had a couple people who did typing. Now everybody is doing that on the fly, like, without even thinking about it.
Right.
And it's just second nature. You're doing it on your phone. You're doing it multiple places. You're doing it at a register. You're doing it here on your computer. You're doing it on your phone. You're doing it on your tablet at home. Like, that's just something we all do all day long.
Yep.
That is what video is going to be in the near future.
And there's a whole lot that has to go into that too, because, well, one, I think you're seeing the workforce, the younger part of the workforce, are the people who've had video.
They're very comfortable with it.
Right. I mean, there isn't that. It was never for them anything that was just in the realm of some professional.
Right.
And so you've got people coming into the workforce who just know how to utilize, communicate with video. So whether it's like a one-to-one sales video or doing a really interesting, Instagram story for your brand, something like that. I mean, it's just so natural. But on the flip side of that coin, everybody's just so used to consuming all of that content that there is that kind of acceptance of. And I think this goes to the quantity over quality piece a little bit too. You can do an Instagram story on your phone for your brand that's really effective.
Sure.
As long as you know why you're doing it and what you're trying to accomplish with it. Like, it doesn't have to be professionally shot, all that kind of stuff. It can be that scrappy stuff. So there's still a quality there that may not be a production quality. There's a value there in the purpose of the piece, in the action that you want to bring about in people. That quality is still there. But you can knock out 15 seconds at a time, a dozen of those.
Yep.
But yeah, I was just really struck by this kind of novel comparison. I mean, to me, it's one of those like, oh, of course, why hadn't I thought of that before? Like, it's a no-brainer evolution of video that's going to make it not only more necessary, but more expected.
One of the things that we do to help our clients practice more effective video and to do it at scale is to create, I think creating series helps push you down that road a little bit.
Yep.
Because you know that you're going to be releasing X amount over the next 6 weeks, whatever it is. And you can kind of batch a lot of that stuff. But then also creating these, for lack of I have a better term, but like templates almost. So every time your video, like a video from your company starts, it should have this sort of branding and this sort of like sonic or audio,
bing, bing.
Yeah, whatever it is. You should have that stuff that's just canned and ready to go, so that all you have to do is throw in the right video clips. If there's a particular music or types of music you like to use, you should have a pile of those. You should have your branding stuff done and ready to go. and openers for the show. I think we don't even know what our opener is going to look like for this yet, but
Right.
We've been playing around with a bunch of stuff, but now we're going to have that, and now we just have to fit in the video and audio clips.
Yeah.
And we wrap it all together. So having some of that stuff ready can help you scale your video content.
Mm-hmm. And make it easier for more people who may be less technically trained to contribute to the video content that your organization is producing. Because it doesn't necessarily have to fall to one person to shoot it and edit it and release it. There could be an entire team, and I think we get to this a little bit later on, where a lot of people are actually contributing to then the individual piece.
Everyone's going to be expected, just like everyone has to type their own shit out on their keyboard.
Yep.
You're going to be doing your own video. Even if you're an engineer, it's going to be about communicating to the other engineers in your team about why an update took place or something.
Okay. So the next little paragraph that I called out, in 2020, businesses will accelerate investments in the people, processes, and technology required to scale video content creation in a way that meets the needs of different business units in an efficient way. I think that different business units is a key part of this discussion. These investments will involve a multifaceted approach to supporting a wide range of video types, from employee communications to timely social media posts to online brand experiences. I think we've started talking about this a little bit in some of our previous episodes, but how, and of course, how we position ourselves, right? There's video for marketing, for sales, for customer success. Of course, there's internal employee communications, there's HR and recruiting opportunities. And so, until so recently, everybody just kind of looked at the marketing department whenever anybody said video. And so, organizations seem to be going one of two ways. They seem to be either enabling and empowering each individual business unit to create their own video content, or they're all looking to marketing, but marketing is expecting them to look at them and say, okay, I know I need to be doing HR and recruiting stuff for that team. I know I need to be doing stuff for the sales team. I know I need to be doing this top level marketing stuff for us. I know I need to be doing. So I don't think we've necessarily seen enough of it play out yet where we know which of those two models is more effective. My guess is that there's some evolution of the marketing department that they become
there's going to be a
responsible for.
Team.
Yes.
Because it's impossible for them to create a personalized video from a salesperson to a prospect. It's impossible.
Right.
They can't do that.
But they can create content that the sales team would specifically use that may not be at scale. That may not be used in a marketing standpoint.
Right.
Or video content for the customer service team or customer support team. I think ideally you have that video budget and video resources, I don't want to say department, within each of the business units, so that there's someone kind of primarily responsible for vetting the content that's going out for that department. And then you get to kind of keep it a little bit more self-enclosed. But you still got to have that top level brand consistency that you were talking about. Like
someone's got to be in charge of that.
Yeah.
Which I think marketing, because it would be a brand thing. Marketing would be in charge of that, but yeah, like there will be a sales video officer and a customer success video officer.
Oh my goodness, it looks like it's time for our sponsor.
I've been looking forward to it.
All right. The old 98s. Nostalgic for mid to late 90s post-grunge alternative music, but can't ever remember which band did which songs. Was that Tonic? Toadies? Third Eye Blind? The Old 98s is a new 90s tribute band made up of members from some of your favorite forgotten post-grunge bands. The bassist from Space Hog? Got him. The guitarist from Candlebox? Yep. Another guitarist from Collective Soul? You bet. Forgot those were different bands? We're the band for you. Drummer from Dishwalla? You know it. Hype man from Our Lady Peace? Amen, brother. Ezra from Better Than Ezra? Sure, why not? The old 98s. Wishing we had better lawyers before we were famous for those 15 minutes we were famous. Coming soon to a surprisingly small local music venue near you. The old 98s.
Yeah, they're at the Cat's Cradle coming up. One of the downsides to attending these is there are so many members in the band
Yes.
that only like 7 or, I mean, depends how you look at it, but only like 7 or 8 people, depending on the venue, can afford to be in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
With fire codes and
Yeah,
everything.
the band is usually larger than the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay.
I felt very special. They were surrounding me,
Yes.
like me and like 4 other people.
Yeah. Well, and because you have to have been born between like March of 1980 and like June of 1984 to like really have been there the first time these songs were popular. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're kind of perfectly timed for like
The old millennials.
that old, like the old millennials, the last Gen Xers like myself, for example, who grew up like turning on DC 101 in the morning and hearing these songs and being like, oh, haven't I heard the song before? No, it's a brand new one from Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Yeah.
And now, however many years later it is, they just really all sound the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the most impressive part to me about the performance was how it was essentially just one long song with each of those old one-hit wonders as like a different movement within the song. And they just seamlessly blended from like one track to the next. And the whole thing was over in like 36 minutes.
Yeah, very soothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, you rock hard.
That nostalgia, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So, welcome to our new sponsor, the Old 98. See them at the Cat's Cradle sometime, probably.
Yeah.
If not Cat's Cradle,
Or
that may be too large a venue. Maybe they bump down to Local 506.
Yeah.
Might be a better sized venue.
Or Shooters.
Yeah. But anyway, keep an eye out now. They're on tour. Not to be confused, of course, with the Old 97s, which is an actual band.
Is it really?
Yes.
Ah.
But, 98 is when so many of these songs came out. Of course, I was a senior in high school in 98.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of this is just like, that was my time.
Yeah.
So, I think that's why they reached out to me
Okay.
for this one.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Great.
welcome to our sponsor, the Old 98s. Back to our podcast. The next section I called out here, I think is closely connected to what we were talking about a minute ago. Marketing teams will add dedicated in-house video production resources to support evolving content strategies. Content writers will balance their time between traditional long-form content and writing video scripts. Social media marketers will advance their video editing capabilities to help scale video creation and customization for different social networks. I mean, you can take this model of websites themselves or blogs, and then, the evolution from blogs to like ebooks and guides. Like, we can see what happened with all of this stuff historically. It's happening and going to happen with video. So all of the money and resources that companies have put into content creation, thinking about written content creation, is now just slowly shifting, actually pretty quickly shifting toward video content. It's not that it necessarily replaces any of that. And I think that's what this is really saying is you've got a lot of the people in place in your organization who have the skills to apply to... I know where you're going. I can tell by your face. I know where you're going with this.
I mean, that's true. There's a lot that needs to be imparted still. Like, just because you can write a blog post does not mean you're a good screenwriter.
But if you're a good writer of blog posts, you're probably a pretty good writer, which means you can learn how to write a script for a video more easily than bringing in someone to start with video scripts without any writing experience at all.
Yeah, like Marshall McLuhan. Do you know Marshall McLuhan? He said the media is the message. The medium is the message. So you're using video in a whole new way, and to think about it with that dynamic like shift, it takes a lot to go from writing words to writing words, images, sounds, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's just one person. This is the writer, but then I don't think you. Where else can current roles be transferred to video roles?
Well, I think the easiest one is just salespeople.
Okay.
Right? And all you're doing there is changing what you're communicating from an email or a phone call to a video chat or a video message. Right? Which, as we've discussed before, but is worth repeating, the video part of it allows you to show and tell. If you're calling someone, you're probably going to get their voicemail. And if you leave a voicemail, because I don't know anybody who leaves voicemails anymore.
God, do not leave me a voicemail.
You've probably got a basically scripted kind of thing. And even if you get them, you've got a sales script that you're going to kind of work through once you get to that person to some extent,
Outline,
right?
Yeah.
Some idea of what you've talked about with them before, where you want to get them to go, the next decision you want them to make, next commitment you want them to make. But you can either write that up in an email or phone, call someone, or you can share that through a video. So again, we're not talking about, like, in this case, highly produced video content.
No.
But just leveraging video as a medium to share more information, and it's still novel enough that people are connecting with it, and it's not as commonplace as voicemail.
I would say it's, yes, it is still novel. So from a cold outreach, it works very effectively.
Yeah.
But it's beyond novel. It's just more effective. So I think that's the main reason to start using it as a communication tool, not just a sales outreach for like SDRs kind of thing. But I have a message to share with you. If you can see me and see the conviction in my face, my body language, all that stuff, that helps so much more convey what you're trying to say.
And I think too, look at our weekly updates for our clients.
Yep.
That's something our project manager usually does, which means right now, you and I are doing most of them. And yet, over the last few weeks, we've had David take on a couple. And so he's reluctantly, like everyone, I think, who's new to video, taking that on. But it's,
Did you tell Anthony yet that he's doing those for contractors?
You can tell him. But, David, in his third week of weekly updates, came in and did them in here. Right? Which was, even though he was using a webcam, a much better look because he had great light coming in through the window, which we have blacked out right now. He had one of the hair lights on. He didn't even really know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But he just kind of sat down in this studio room, and it sounded better and looked better than most of the stuff that we did from our desk. So even just that awareness and just learning little things, even if you're not using like a cinema camera or a DSLR to shoot it, moving your laptop into a sound-treated room, an interesting-looking space, right, where the light is right, is also going to have that much more of an effect because there's so much more video content happening. And again, when you look at scaling, this is taking video content for your organization that's made by like one department and managed by like 3 or 4 people to empowering your entire group of employees to utilize video to communicate. And they're communicating your brand, and whether those are one-to-many messages or one-to-one messages, that scale, right? I mean, that is how you scale. If you can take
one producer that you just hired is not going to help you scale video effectively. You need rapid adoption across the company.
Training your 150 salespeople to utilize video in their cadence, that helps you scale. And you don't even necessarily have to hire someone to do that, right? You just sign up for the platform, put them through the onboarding.
And you could just figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the early adopters did. They didn't have anybody to train them.
Yeah.
There are people who will train that sort of thing these days.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
So last little snippet that jumped out to me in this section was, as video evolves from being a promotional content medium, this is just what we were just talking about, to a communication platform for businesses and individuals, the way we think about it is fundamentally changing. There's more, but to me, that rings true with the beginning of the manifesto. We're redefining the word video, right? Much like employees are expected to create emails, documents, and presentations today, they will start to be empowered to capture and share videos to improve the way they communicate. We have already talked about this in the other pieces.
This sentiment is a big reason why, well, there's some writing on the wall for a lot of video production companies.
Yes.
which is you better hope some big software company either acquires you or just decides they don't want to do any I don't know where I was going with that. But production, big P production
high-level production
is going to go from a market like this to this because so much is going to be happening in-house. And I've seen this stuff coming. We have for a couple of years now, which is why strategy was the best place for us to start building our foundation. That's why I keep trying to we're working through some positioning and messaging work from for Storyboard Media, but helping companies create a video culture. I think creating a video culture is the best way to think about it. Everyone in your company needs to adopt this, and it's not going to happen overnight, but you need to start adopting it. And there are smart ways to do it. There are really stupid ways to do it. You don't put your account executives on video without telling them how it works or what. They're gonna screw up a 6-digit sale, or not. They could lock it up too, but it's just it's a big risk.
Yeah.
But it's all about creating that culture. Even at our company, we've all decided it's best if we can all pitch in to some of the social media content that we create, rather than just making one person do it.
Right.
And you get a lot of different flavors in that video culture.
Period.
Yeah,
I don't know that I have anything else for that. That was actually pretty good.
Okay.
All right. So you've got some so that's enough from the Vidyard video trends report.
And if you don't believe us, then just if you don't believe that this is going to happen, then you can just sign off right now and not listen anymore. But I don't think if you're a listener, you're not really in that boat.
Right.
So we want to help you take those next steps.
Yeah. So we touched on this a little bit earlier. Who's ultimately responsible for
the 7 phases of practicing effective video?
Each individual phase. Because I could see how, a marketing department could be responsible for the overall video strategy for an entire organization. Mm-hmm. And then you're empowering individuals within each business unit to be responsible for the big P production level, those 3 phases. And then in some cases, it kicks back to the marketing department for distribution and promotion. In some cases, it's up to the creator of the video to distribute that video to the audience that it needs to go to. And then I imagine, regardless of who's creating your strategy, whether it's the marketing department or some content department or video czar or whomever, that's the person or people who need to be analyzing what's working and what isn't.
I think that's going to be maybe one of the hardest parts is aggregating all this content, especially when LinkedIn and Facebook and everything's uploaded natively. So you've got all of these different platforms collecting information about your video, your viewers, and their interactions, and being able to collect all that stuff in one place to paint some bigger picture is going to be really difficult.
Well, and Vidyard makes that point in the report, and I left it out because it feels a little self-serving. I know that any content you create is allowed to be a little bit self-serving at times.
Sure.
But they have an entire section about how video technology is being centralized. And to me, that's exactly what you were just talking about, is how if you've now got these advanced hosting platforms and distribution platforms that either centralize all of the information or centralize the distribution, so that you can come in as someone in the marketing department and look at every individual person within your organization, look at every single video that they're creating and sending out, and look at every single analytic. Or you can look at it from the top level and look at it as a library as a whole.
Yeah.
But you're able to share to YouTube, you're able to share to LinkedIn.
Publish from
that platform, so that you're at least getting the information. You may not be getting all of the information you could get from a video that you emailed to someone directly. If you publish to LinkedIn or YouTube, you're still only going to get the data that LinkedIn collects.
Yeah.
But at least it's all aggregated in one place.
Right.
and you don't have to go from. So I deliberately left it out because it feels like Vidyard saying like us, but with us saying it, right? It's Vidyard, it's Bright Cove, it's 23 to some extent. They're really good about, publishing to other platforms from their platform. Yeah. And so having the people, the right people at the right parts of the process to tie everything together, I think is what's important there.
Yeah.
And then every organization, depending on how aligned their marketing and sales teams are, right? Because we've had plenty of clients where the marketing and sales teams are totally connected, and we've had clients or worked at companies where marketing and sales are just like, you do your job, I'll do my job. You give me more leads, you close more deals. Like, they just do not work together.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be up to each individual organization to figure out how that all works. But putting a department or person or people in charge at several steps does help create a greater understanding of what's working and what isn't.
I do feel like there needs to be a centralized video team. It could be a team of one, or it could be a much bigger team, and they might share other responsibilities in the company, but they should be responsible for strategy, and they should also be responsible for analysis.
Yes.
On both ends. But in between there, production is going to be an everybody thing. Some stuff that happens in a studio, you might have, subject matter experts or source material experts, or have specialized people who show up on camera continually. When you're doing bigger shoots, you probably hire actors for some things, but production will be a responsibility of everybody in the organization.
Yes.
And then I guess for that next layer of our pyramid, the distribution, promotion. Distribution, it's up to that person who produced it and what channels they have and where their audience is. So the strategy should inform that, and people should have an understanding, okay, I'm going to make this video on this platform, send it out this way, and then let that strategy team do their thing in terms of like understanding what happens.
Because in cold outreach, I may have to rely on embedding a video message into a LinkedIn InMail, right? Or it might be a prospect that I've been working for a while, and we're working our way through that journey, and I've got their email address. Right. I've got their phone number. I could text them something if I wanted to. And so you just have to know which channel to use depending on the situation. And so somebody's just got to be there to say, hey, salespeople, this is when to do this, this is when to do this. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by that idea of like a video enablement team, a video, just an organization-wide, business unit agnostic.
Can bring video
ambassador.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. So what else can companies do to catch up to, the early adopters who are really using this stuff, using video well, or even just accelerate their video programs? What can they do? What can companies do to get there?
I think.
What's something that like every company is going to need to have?
I think every company needs to. I keep going back and forth between like the physical resources that are required and like the training resources that are required. But like every company should have a room like this. For those of you who are watching, a room like this. For those of you who are listening, a room like this. I don't know. I thought that might bring a little echo into it and they could kind of feel the room. But where it's a controlled environment where somebody can do something better than just sitting at their desk on their webcam kind of thing at any given time. Whether it is an SME, a salesperson, a customer support rep, a CEO, whomever. Then, of course, there are additional physical components of lights and cameras. And, I mean, you may need to distribute decent webcams to your sales force.
Yeah. Depending on what kind of computer they're using.
Yeah, I mean, if you're giving them MacBooks when they start on day one, those all have a webcam included. That's probably good enough to use.
For sure,
right?
It's a great camera.
But if you're giving them a desktop connected to a monitor in a cubicle, you may have to give them a webcam. So there's those physical things that are, again, it's scale. It's buying 150 webcams instead of like building a $100,000 studio.
Right.
Right. It's make a $1,500 or $10,000 room and then buy 150 webcams. But then to me, there's that education and training element of like, one, convincing 150 salespeople why they should be using video to communicate, and then just giving them in an hour or two the basics of how to do it right.
How to craft, like, so there's the how to appear on camera, right?
Yeah.
And how to act and
what to say, how
camera.
long your messages should be.
Yeah.
All those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then I think there has to be organizationally some kind of accountability from either sales managers or this video enablement team or someone to make sure that people are actually doing it. Because oftentimes, whether they're salespeople or other employees, they revert back to what's worked for them before. And so no matter what kind of engagement numbers you can put in front of them on what their email response rates will be, without accountability, they're probably not going to start doing it.
Yeah.
And the good sales teams have good sales managers with good accountability. The bad sales teams, oftentimes they're lacking that accountability part of it too. But to me, that's it's physical, technical resources, education and training on why and how to do this simply up front, and then just that, again, a video czar or someone saying, here's what's worked, here's what hasn't.
What about to help companies get either to the next level or a couple levels? What about platforms, software, some of that stuff? What are things you have to have?
I mean, I don't know that I have a good answer for that, because to me, when I think of like editing a video together, even just for social, if it's not something that you're just filming live, I immediately go to Premiere or Final Cut Pro 10. But I know there's stuff between just a live uncut video on Instagram and that. I haven't spent enough time in them to know what they are, but I know they're out there.
Yeah.
I am constantly getting fed ads in my Instagram feed for these magical like video content generators, where basically you like type in some of the text of like what you want your title to be, and a vibe, and like some AI selects stock images and then makes a video for you. That could be perfectly fine. I don't go within 10 yards of those things.
Right. Well, because they all look the same.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of value in blending in.
Yeah. I'd rather see a lit video of an individual making a sales pitch directly to me than some clearly shitty stock image that some AI made. Yeah.
I think on some level we've spent a lot of time talking about the one-to-one or one-to-few type of video messaging that happens across the organization.
Yeah.
It could happen externally with prospects, clients. It could happen internally with communicating with your teams who are in another city. There's some software out there that makes this really simple, and it's free. You can pay money to get better versions of it, but I know Vidyard's Go Video is great. Wistia has Soapbox, which has its own pluses and pros and cons.
Pluses and benefits is probably what they'd rather hear. Yeah.
Let's see. There's BombBomb. There's Loom. There's even Drift has some video messaging.
HubSpot's got video messaging included, but it's powered by Vidyard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all of those that I mentioned have free ways to do it. It gets better and better if you decide to pay for it, but I think it's a great way to get started. So that's not a whole lot investment.
Right.
If you're going to have an in-house production team, you should have a computer that a lot of editing can take place on a perfectly regular MacBook Pro. And then you'll need that software like Premiere Pro, whatever. But most of the stuff, like in terms of just becoming better communicators with like internally and externally, there's free stuff out there for them. Other things that can help people get to the next step and be able to, so that they can scale their video.
I do go back to the brand assets. It's a great, I mean, this is such a cynical way to look at it, but like creating well-polished video brand assets that you can give anybody to use really polishes a turd. I mean, if you put the logo sting on the front end and the back end of a like cell phone shot video, it's just gonna make the whole thing feel better.
Yeah.
And I almost hate saying it, but like you create that stuff so that everything has a consistent feel, but also has like an intention behind it, right? It feels like somebody took some effort, and made this a thing, even if it looked shitty in the middle, but it was a valid message to me, whether it was a one-to-one message or a one-to-many message. Regardless of that quality, you know what? It started well, it ended well. I know what brand it was for, and I know what they want me to do. I can use that. And so I think that's something that is so overlooked. I mean, we got plenty of clients who have multiple video vendors, and you can just tell when some stuff was made by one vendor and some stuff was made by another, because they just use different logo things. They use different color palettes. They use different lower thirds. They use whatever it is.
I'm so surprised because video is becoming ubiquitous. Every company who's gone through some sort of branding exercise with professionals, they have brand guidelines. But that, to this day, I have not seen a company hand me a video brand guidelines.
We've created them and handed them to clients, but we've never been handed one.
But they should have that. It should not just be like, here's the opening and closing. Yeah. It's here's the kind of music you should use. Here's the transitions you should be using. Some of them either it's just a hard cuts only, no fades, or it's we don't do this type of movement. It's all 90-degree edges and
we could talk about. I mean,
I'm just surprised that
I have so many issues with brand guidelines. So many brand guidelines are just written for the marketing department, and you can tell, right? Like, here's the appropriate spacing around our logo because it is, 0.61 of the height of the first letter.
Yeah.
And if I'm a salesperson and I'm trying to put like a logo at the end of one of my videos, I don't care. Like, just give me the logo asset without anything around it in that space or whatever, and I'll use it, right? So I think so many brand guidelines are just so horribly written to be used across organizations anyway. That's something that needs to be addressed. But yes, video assets and video guidelines have to be a part of that just as much as for print or web or anything else that you're asking your employees to do. And if we've mentioned anything in this episode, it's that individual employees are going to be asked to create more content.
Yeah.
And expected to, and it's going to be expected.
Every company is a media company.
Yeah.
It's just a rule. You have to be out there. You have to be sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your messages. If you don't do media, you don't exist.
Yeah.
And so, kind of on that brand, the video branding guidelines, I think some rules around what gets posted to the company YouTube channel and what's private.
Yeah.
Something a company can do is just getting their YouTube channel cleaned up. So many companies have this as just a big dump site where they just upload. There's no playlist created. There's no thumbnails created. There's no consistency with titling.
I think we talked about this in our video audit episode. Like, if you've got your like release for version 2.1 video out there and you're on version 4.0, you're actually harming yourself because if people are searching for, information about your product, the way SEO works is the stuff that's been there part of how SEO
proven.
works.
The stuff that's
is
proven.
The stuff that's proven, which part of that equation is stuff that's been there longer and utilized and heavily viewed, is going to score higher than the newer stuff. And so by not taking down your version 2.1 product release video, you're harming the ability for people to see, what your platform does now. I want to ask you about video ethics.
Okay.
How does video ethics play a role in all of this?
Well, that's funny because I put it on there, and I was going to ask you that.
I don't know what you mean by video ethics, which is why I wanted to ask it, because I didn't know what you meant.
I kind of
by
meant it in like guidelines, but as like sort of like the brand guidelines.
Is this like Tethics?
What's that again? Oh yeah, tech ethics.
Tech ethics
from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Let's see. I jotted it down just kind of in like a stream of consciousness. It might just be part of guidelines again, but how does your brand need to be communicated, like presented externally, internally? How are you using video? Are you using it to like shame somebody in the company because they're not doing something, or I don't know, like I think there's something about the video ethics. I haven't thought more about it than just writing it down on the show notes.
I mean, I could see that empowering so many individuals with the power of video could be potentially dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. And as a company, you have to establish what the ethics behind usage.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe that's Storyboard Media will be a video ethics company in 5 years.
Yeah. Vethics. Vidtics? No.
So let's say we're somehow, if they don't knock this building down, and we're here 3 years from now having a very early 2023 conversation, and you're really happy about the way video has gone over the past 3 years, as companies have, maybe they haven't scaled as much as we thought, but but you're really happy with the way it's gone. What has happened in those 3 years to make you, as a video evangelist, video fan, to make you so happy?
Well, I think the first part of my answer goes to the first question that was posed by Vidyard in this report, is that people are thinking, how do I make video a natural integrated part of my communication with my employees and my customers and prospects, as opposed to, why should I be using video? In 3 years, I don't want to have to cite to any potential client how open rates increase, email open rates increase when you include a video or something like that, is that everybody gets it, right? And so if everybody's getting it or is just dead or, never going to adopt video. Sure. And the people who have adopted video are taking a very, and one of the things that keeps me up at night is trying to find a different word for strategic, because it's so often just a throwaway word. But they're taking a holistic, integrated view of how video works within their organization, internally, externally, to drive revenue, to drive brand awareness, to drive customer satisfaction, to drive employee satisfaction. And they know that among all of the things that they are using to treat each of those, video is one of those few things that can address all of those. And so there's just an understanding that even if they don't know how to do it, because I feel like that's where we fit in, that video is the way to communicate effectively in all of those internal and external channels.
It's not the only way to communicate.
Right.
It is a very effective way to do it.
It is a very effective way. It is a way that we as an organization must be doing it. And we rely on people who've been doing this for 5, 8, 10 years, whatever it is, to show us the way on how to do this. Because we know it needs to be done. We don't know how. We need to bring in the partners that can show us how. And the last part of that is a little bit self-serving, but I mean,
it's your 3-year dream.
But that's the point of the question, right?
Yeah.
You get me to identify what my aspirations are.
Yeah.
if they haven't torn down this building in 3 years and we're sitting in this room doing a podcast episode or whatever we're doing then, talking about video trends for 2023, and you're really happy about how companies are using video and us, what has changed in the last 3 years to make you happy?
For years now, I've been sick of trying to convince people why video should be a part of their business. So to have that just be like, that's just part of the bell-shaped curve. You know, when are people going to adopt this? And I would say in 3 years, if we're not at early majority, then something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a disease that breaks out and no longer can people see in the U.S.
Right.
Then maybe video won't be so important.
Like corneal virus?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy. I would say we're not in this little studio anymore. We're probably in, but maybe this is just our podcast studio.
Right.
And we've got a bigger studio.
Yeah, this is the Video Reformation brand studios. Yeah.
I would like to be having more conversations with companies about that full 7 phases. I'd like to have conversations about that instead of just the production aspect.
Yeah.
We've been around for 6 years. It took us about that long to finally, now people understand the value of pre-production.
Right.
They used to just think you could walk into a room and shoot something and be done, and like, why does this cost so much?
Hey, guys, are you available on Thursday? Because I have a client coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's taken that long for most people to realize that, okay, we should give them some lead time to write and location scout. I would like for that to expand beyond just that second layer.
Anything else?
I'd be really happy for some of those like very high level, or just like Zendesk, HubSpot. So HubSpot has done a good job of integrating video. Salesforce, the only reason that Salesforce has a report is because Vidyard, I believe, are the ones who created the integration.
Yeah.
But for these ERPs, these CRMs, to be able to better understand the video data and how it affects the bottom line, I would love to have better integrations on that front.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to be surprised at how big of an impact it has.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. I also think I'd like to add to mine to say I'd like to be having more conversations with clients about 268 video projects instead of like 1 or 3 or 5. But like looking at what's the most we can get out of this. And I think a fundamental part of that conversation is a sense of a return on investment. And to be able to personalize some pieces of core content across industry or persona or job role or whatever it is, it's a simple way, it's a valuable way because it takes less energy to get from video 11 to video 200 than it takes to get from video 1 to 10. Right? It takes more work to create the 10 core pieces. It takes less work than it took to do that to 10x the amount of content. And so that we're having conversations with clients and companies are creating libraries that are mapped to their personas journeys, be they in marketing, sales, customer success, but they're fine understanding that they're going to have to create 268 landing pages or whatever it is, because there's more value in that than just creating, 15 or 20 industry or persona agnostic videos.
Yep.
And to me, that is very advanced. It relates nicely for this episode because that's the example we started with. But, that's that kind of advanced video thinking for a business is, how can we get the most out of this content?
Quick little recap here.
Yeah, recap. So Vidyard has released their video trends for 2020. We'll put the link in the show notes so that you can view that entire report ourselves. Who knows? There may be upcoming podcast episodes for us where we jump into some of the other trends that they break into.
They're all very interesting.
They are.
I think this one was one of the most obvious, but like needed to be just like help people get there. I think.
Yeah. I think today was essentially about video creation at scale, but it's almost more like what you need to be thinking about video now as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be thinking about creating content throughout your organization, regardless of business unit, regardless of who's producing it, and then all of the entanglements that come from that. Having branding guidelines in place for video, having some kind of video enablement czar to assess how video is performing when it's that distributed, and democratized throughout an organization, and more employees using video. We talked about bringing existing employees in and leveraging their talents, like content writers. Good writers are going to be able to be trained to write scripts. Better than someone who doesn't have any writing experience at all, and we talked a little bit about kind of the physical and like technical requirements of scaling at that size, but also just the training and accountability resources that organizations need to apply to. We had a new sponsor this week. They've paid for 2 readings, so I think it's time to read their spot again. If you recall, our sponsor this week is the Old 98s. The Old 98s, nostalgic for mid to late 90s post-grunge alternative music, but can't ever remember which band did which songs. Was that Tonic? Toadies? Third Eye Blind? The Old 98s is a new 90s tribute band made up of members from some of your favorite forgotten post-grunge bands. The bassist from Space Hog? Got him. The guitarist from Candlebox? Yup. Another guitarist from Collective Soul? You bet. Forgot those were 2 different bands? We're the band for you. Drummer from Dishwalla? You know it. Hype man from Our Lady Peace? Amen, brother. I didn't even know Our Lady Peace had a hype man.
I'm going to look him up.
Ezra from Better Than Ezra? Sure, why not? The Old 98s. Wishing we had better lawyers before we were famous for those 15 minutes we were famous. Coming soon to a surprisingly small local music venue near you. All right. So thanks for listening to this episode. Thanks for watching on Instagram Live, if you're still with us on Instagram Live. Thanks for watching this episode, if we release this one in video form.
Yeah, we're filming a lot of these, but
we have been filming.
Finally got our shit together.
Now we're in our new office, so ta-da. As always, like, subscribe, rate, send us what you'd like us to talk about. Send us gifts, send us nudes, whatever. Yeah. Thank you for listening and watching the Video Reformation Podcast. We'll see you next time.
In a couple seconds. Because we're probably going to just watch the next episode. We won't see you.
You'll see us right after our outro banter, because then you'll go to the next episode. Yeah. We're a very binge-worthy podcast.
Yes. That's kind of what our statistics look like.
Yeah. People just dedicate like their
8
entire
hours
weekends to catching up on like the last 6 or 7 episodes.
Yeah, sometimes Sawyer doesn't even go to sleep at night. He just listens to our podcast.
Well, he needs to know, right? He's the heir to the story.
He will be, yeah.
For half of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't know much about Parker.
Oh, no, I meant like your half of it.
When are you going to spread your seed?
I don't know.
Have you frozen any? Just in case.
If I had, I'm not sure.
I'd freeze some.
Econ.
What's up, dude? Cool Honey Crates commercial you were working on yesterday.
Thank you. That's our in-office hair stylist.
Yeah. Let's just get her.